Greetings and welcome to Outside the Cage. This is your exhausted and sore host, Larken Rose. And I spent too much time working today, doing other things, and didn't actually get ready what I wanted to do for the show tonight. So we're not doing a show. Goodbye. No, just kidding. We will do a show, but I'm pretty much throwing out the plan that I had been going to do, and now I'm going to do something completely different. What I was going to do next week will be a bit of an ad-lib here, because my life is mayhem at the moment. But I think it will be well worth your listening time anyway. As those of you familiar with my stuff know, I'm rather fond of using analogies and stories to make a point, to help people think about things in a different way, to see things in a different light. And we're going to do that tonight. Another story. Did one last week, this one's different. And the reason for doing this is because so much of what people say, so much of the terminology they use, so much of the concepts they believe in and take for granted and repeat, they never really think about. They don't really understand what they're saying. And sometimes the reason they don't understand it is because the terminology they use doesn't actually make any sense. But when people just repeat things because everyone else says them and never question them and never think about them, they don't really understand even what they are saying, much less what other people are saying. So I want to tell a little story here and use it to illustrate how much of the political discussion you hear about government and law and authority and public policy and all that, how much of that is completely detached from reality. How many of the terms and positions and things like that don't make any sense, even though you'll hear them constantly. You'll hear them all over the place. They're constantly repeated by everybody on the TV, the talking heads. Those well-dressed, respectable-looking people say these things, so they must mean something. And actually they don't. And this story will basically demonstrate that what you may take for granted and what you hear all the time on the news and from politicians and talking heads and talk show hosts, present company accepted, has very little to do with logic and reality and has more to do with training you to believe things that don't actually make any sense and in some cases don't even mean anything. They're just designed to make you feel good and make you support things that are stupid or destructive or downright evil. So, here's the story. Now, I really want you to imagine this instead of just sort of having it play in the background, because I want you to imagine what this would really be like. The scenario is this. We'll put you in the story. You and, let's say, 100 people are on an airplane. And it's flying over the Pacific, and it has engine trouble, and it crashes, and the pilots die, and there's no radio that works, and luckily, in a gazillion to one chance, it crashes onto a desert island. And 100 people live through the crash, and a couple people have broken bones and things like that. So you climb out of this smoldering wreckage of this plane, and there you are, and there's no sign of civilization. There's no sign that any human being has ever been here before. It's a fairly big island. It has a couple mountains and woods, and you presume streams and stuff because there's lots of greenery, so it's not just a pile of sand, in which case you'd be doomed. So there you are, 100 people, stranded, no way to leave, no way to communicate with anybody else. So, for all intents and purposes, that island is the entire world, and those 100 people are the population of the entire world. And these are people you don't know. You just got on a plane with them. You don't know anything about them. You don't know what they believe. You don't know what they're like. You don't know their professions or beliefs or anything like that. So, you climb out of this smoldering ruin of the plane. You look around. There's 100 people, and they're all looking around dazed and scared, and some people are crying, and some people are in pain and from injuries from the crash. And everyone's basically looking around saying, well, now what? What are we going to do? Like, can we call for help? And they check the radio, and the radio's dead. And after a while, it dawns on everyone there that, well, for now, this is where you're living. And by now, it's middle of the afternoon. Eventually, it's going to be night. And being human beings, you're going to need things like food and water and preferably shelter at night. You don't know what lives on the island. You don't know what the weather's going to be like. You don't know much of anything about what's going to happen. But you start thinking to your immediate needs. And so you see a couple people trying to build a lean-to, and they almost get it up, and it falls over, and so they're yelling curse words and jumping up and down. And another guy goes over to them and says, yeah, what you need is cross-bracing. I do construction work. I'll make you a deal. I'll help you build a lean-to shelter that won't fall over if, when we're done, you can help me build one. And I'll show you how to do it. And so they make the deal, and people start doing that and trying to figure out where to live, what they're going to drink, what they're going to eat, just the necessities of life, and are trying to figure that out. Now, meanwhile, one guy steps forward, and he says, I was a state senator for 12 years, and I think you should put me in charge of everything because I think I'm the only one here with experience at governing people. And everyone pretty much says, shut up. Like, we don't really care what you think. We're trying to figure out food and water and shelter right now. We don't really have any need for a politician at the moment. We'll get back to you if we ever do. So he huffs and puffs and goes on his way. So a couple people say, well, we really need water, because somebody says, people need water a lot more often than they need food, so I'd say our first priority should be finding water, and later we'll worry about food. And so a few little groups get together, and some people who know about hunting or hike a lot, and they start forming little groups. And this group says, we're going to go find water. And this group says, we're going to go see if we can find stuff to eat, whether it's animal or vegetable or whatever. So you start meeting some of the people on the island and learning what they're about and what they do. And after this break, we will get back to our story and start to see how reality, like on the island, doesn't actually match what you hear on the TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Outside the Cage. I'm your host, Larken Rose. Okay, we were making our little story about the plane that crashes with you on it, you and 100 other people that you know little or nothing about, crashes on this island, and now the survivors, 100 or so of you, are trying to figure out what to do, how to stay alive, how to find water. One group of a few people says, we're going to go off and see if we can find a source of water. Another group says, we're going to see if we can find some food. Construction guys helping people build lean-tos that don't fall over. Things like that. And the one politician guy came out and said, I think I should be in charge. And at the moment, people said, well, we don't really need that for anything, so just go away. Now, one of the people on the plane in the crash broke his leg. And he's lying on the ground, and and people are saying, well, what do we do about it? And a lady says, well, I was a nurse, but, we mainly just took care of old people. I don't know how to fix a broken leg. And a guy says, well, I was a veterinarian, and, I wasn't a people doctor, but we're more or less like animals, so unless there's a real doctor, I guess I'm the best we got. So I guess I'll see what I can do about this guy's broken leg. And so they're fumbling around a little bit, and the guy says, watch it. If you hurt me, I'm going to sue you. And everyone's quiet for a couple seconds, and then they start chuckling and saying, what do you mean, sue me? Sue me where? And what do you think you're going to get from me? We're all on a desert island. Like, I'm doing the best I can. Even if I kill you, there's nothing you can do about it. Because we're it. Us in this island, that's reality. Just deal with it and stop being whiny. I'm doing the best I can. So they do what they can with his broken leg and try to patch him up and set the leg right. And then down the beach, you notice that the construction guy has helped a couple people build houses, and they helped him build his, and it was looking pretty good. Not exactly houses, just lean-tos enough to hopefully keep the rain out if it were to rain. And a lady comes out and says, that's not fair. I don't have a shelter. He has a shelter and I don't have a shelter. That's not fair. I have a right to a shelter. If he has one, why shouldn't I have one? So she's ranting on and says, I have a right. I have a right to a shelter. And everybody says, well, what do you think that even means? And the construction guy says, look, I'm building them as fast as I can. There's 100 people. I can't build 100 shelters by myself in a day. And she says, but I have a right. And everyone's saying, well, what do you think that means? You have a right to it. Someone else has to build one. They don't just appear. They don't grow. They're not naturally occurring. Are you claiming that you have the right to sit there and have somebody else build a shelter for you? Because, well, if everybody does that, there isn't going to be a shelter for anybody. Somebody's got to build it. And why you think somebody else should build you a shelter instead of you building your own, I don't rightly know. And the construction guy says, look, I'm going to be working on these shelters constantly because there's 100 of us, and who knows when some storm's going to roll in here and pour on us. But I can't get water and food and stuff for myself if I'm doing that day in and day out. So I think I have to make a deal here so I don't starve to death, that if I help one of you build a shelter for the night, you got to give me, just a little bit to eat or drink or something so I don't die. And so began trade on the island. In that case, barter, where he said, well, I know how to build stuff that doesn't fall over, but if I do that and nothing else, I don't have any food. So other people said, okay, we'll go in, and they found bananas, and finally the group looking for the stream came back and said, yeah, we found the stream, and we broke one coconut and have like half a coconut worth of water in it, so we got to figure out a better way to get it down here. But we found a stream, and it seems it's fresh water, and it seems to be good enough. We tried it, and we didn't throw up or anything, so